Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Basis Points, where we dive deep into the numbers and the stories that drive our economy and shape our world. The headlines. The Energy Department cancels over 100 renewable energy projects due to delays in completion. The Commission on Audit orders the GSIS to recover over 2 billion pesos in investments from 3 firms, citing a lack of profits. Authorities are on heightened alert as the Black Nazarene procession draws millions of devotees. And U.S. President Joe Biden vows federal aid to help the victims of the wildfires ravaging Los Angeles. Let's take a quick look at how the financial markets performed overnight. Now on Wall Street, U.S. stocks closed Wednesday with little movement as investors weighed 2 conflicting jobs reports and speculation that President-elect Donald Trump is considering a national economic emergency declaration on inflation. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was higher by 0.25%, the S&P 500 up by about 0.2%, while the Nasdaq flat with a downward bias, down less than 0.1%.
Treasury yields have been moving the stock market since third week of December, kind of spoiling the Santa Claus rally that we were hoping for from Christmas into the new year. And today, as goes the 10-year, goes the stock market, which is what we've seen today. And there's been a bunch of events during the day today that have moved the bond market around, which are impacting stocks.
Now, over in Europe, markets were mixed. The FTSE 100 higher by 0.1%, the DAX flat, down by less than 0.1%, and the CAC 40 lower by 0.5%. Now, investors remain cautious amid mixed economic signals, with volatility continuing to define both U.S. and European markets. On the local front, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or the BSP, is expected to lower its key policy rate by 25 basis points next month. This projection comes from city economist Nalin Chotitam, which attributes the move to a stable inflation outlook and tight real policy rates. He further highlights that inflation is expected to stay within the government's target range of between 2 to 4% throughout 2025. Now, if implemented, the policy rate would drop to 5.5% from its current 5.75%, offering more affordable borrowing options. A rate cut would benefit businesses and consumers by reducing financing costs, potentially spurring investments and economic activity. Now, the Department of Energy, or DOE, cancels over 100 renewable energy projects because of delays in completion. The DOE says that this is part of its efforts to streamline the energy sector. It also warns that more projects could be canceled if they find more delays. Energy Secretary Rafael Lotilla says that the move is meant to encourage serious investors who can complete projects on time. Now, the Commission on Audit, or COA, orders the Government Service Insurance System, or the GSIS, to recover 2.3 billion pesos in investments from 3 companies. According to COA's report, these investments were flagged because the companies, which were not named, had no proven profitability from 2019 to 2022. COA warned that the investments put GSIS members' contributions at risk and could threaten the fund's ability to pay future benefits. The report also noted that GSIS recorded a 251.37 million peso valuation loss from these transactions in 2023. The GSIS has yet to release a statement on this matter. Now, this issue raises concerns about the need for stricter oversight in investments to ensure the safety and security of GSIS members' funds. Now, the procession of the image of Jesus Nazareno, also known as the Feast of the Black Nazarene, began at dawn today, a tradition that draws millions of devotees to the streets of Manila every January 9th. To give us the latest from this year's celebration, let's go to Hannah T., who is reporting live from Plaza Miranda. Hi, Hannah, go ahead.
Maiki, aside from aid stations located in various parts of Manila, the Manila LGU says all devotees and responders requiring medical attention during the traslasyon may be brought to two designated field hospitals. These field hospitals are located at the Cartilla ng Katipunan and P. Gomez Elementary School and P. Gomez Elementary School on P. Guevara Street, corner Fugoso Street. These were set up to prevent emergency rooms from being overwhelmed since the crowd is expected to reach hundreds of thousands today. Last night, Maiki, the Emergency Operations Center, conducted an operational briefing to ensure an orderly traslasyon. This center is currently monitoring the deployment and communication of personnel assigned to key areas along the procession route, ensuring prompt responses to any incidents. Maiki, a liquor ban is also in effect today within a 500-meter radius of Quiapo Church and the entire procession route. This ban was imposed by the city government to maintain peace and order and avoid any disruptions. As of this time, Maiki, devotees continue to arrive in waves here in Plaza Miranda, and the crowd is expected to grow as the procession makes its way here. Maiki.
Hannah, can you describe the scale of the Translation this year and how does it differ from the previous years?
Maiki, aside from the blessing of the replica images of the Black Nazarene, which happened last week kasi Maiki, it happened at a footbridge in Quezon Boulevard, and last year it happened here in Plaza Miranda. And this year also, there's no difference naman when it comes to route dahil nagsisimula rin ito sa Quirino Grandstand papunta dito sa Quiapo Church, and so far wala namang binago sa ruta, and sinabi ng Manila Police District as well as the Quiapo Church that the road will stay the same, but security is tightened same as last year, and two security scanner machines are also set up in front of the Quiapo Church. In fact, dumaan ang ilang media personnel doon dahil ganun katayat yung security dito sa Quiapo Church, and we've seen some confiscated items as well, including scissors and Swiss knives and also other sharp objects. Maiki.
Okay, you stay safe over there, Hannah. Thank you for that update. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line.
The latest news, national issues,
with regard to was very vocal about charter change.
the political scene, the trust and approval ratings of President Bongbong Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte decline, and conversations with prominent personalities.
Brings back wonderful memories of past Christmases when I was a little boy in Iloilo.
Be timely informed, be insightful of the news. All these firsthand at the forefront.
This is The Scorecard, where you score the latest sports news and in-depth views. I'm Anton Rojas. Welcome dito sa BNC Studios. How are you feeling?
Join him together with different sports personalities and have a healthy sports conversation that will help you to know them even better.
In the Philippines, everybody loves community.
We can say that you got hooked. The Scorecard, where sports is our business and business is our sport, right here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Welcome back to Basis Points Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange. Opened just a few minutes ago. Let's take a look at the initial figures. Right now at 9:43 this morning, the PSE index is flat with a downward bias, lower by 0.1% to 6490. Now, after falling for a second straight day yesterday, the PSE index lost 0.7% to 6497. Analysts say an uptick in the Philippine sovereign debt is weighing on investor sentiment. According according to the Bureau of Treasury, our national debt increased by 0.4% month-on-month to 16.1 trillion pesos as of end November 2024 on account of net financing and weakness in the local currency. Now, taking a look at the other market indicators, the broader all shares index is flat with a downward bias, lower by less than 0.1% to 37.48. As for the sub-indices, we're seeing a mixed picture. The financials, industrial, and holding firms are in the red, while the services, mining, and oil and property counters are in the green. Now, at the foreign exchange market, let's take a look at the peso. It opened weaker at 58.45 against the greenback from its previous close of 58.40. Now, the Philippine unemployment rate drops to a 5-month low of 3.2% in November, marking an improvement in the labor market. Sujin Kim has the full story.
The country's unemployment rate declined to 3.2%, equivalent to 1.66 million Filipinos who are without a job or actively seeking work. Meanwhile, the underemployment rate, which tracks employed individuals seeking better jobs, dropped to 10.8% compared to 12.6% in October. This translates to 5.35 million Filipinos calling for improved job quality across sectors.
This actually encourages us to continue enhancing and effectively implementing programs of the department to contribute to the overall aspiration of having quality, sustainable, and remunerative jobs for our workers.
The services sector continues to dominate employment, accounting for 62.1% of the workforce. This is followed by agriculture at 20% and industry at 17.9%. Key sectors experienced notable employment upticks, with more than 500,000 in manufacturing and accommodations. These gains reflect continued recovery in tourism-related industries and robust demand in manufacturing and healthcare.
Usually last quarter, yung 3 buwan na yan, may mga pagtaas tayo doon sa accommodation services, restaurants, and of course, yung mga key inputs nito like food products.
However, some industries experienced sharp employment drops. In November, 5 typhoons hit the Philippines, drastically affecting farmers with the steepest drop of close to 2 million and fisherfolk with more than 270,000.
Ito yung dalawang sektor na malaki talaga yung bawas year on year. Una, naapektuhan yung growing of corn. Halos may bawas dito year on year ng mga 400,000. Growing of banana, may bawas din na 312,000 year on year. Growing of paddy rice, 213,000. Marine fishing, dito malaki yung bawas, mga 286,000. So ang pinaka main reason ay yung 5 typhoons na pumasok sa ating bansa noong buwan ng Nobyembre.
Following the results of the labor force survey, Chief Economic Planner Arsenio Balisacan underscored the need for incorporating alternative work arrangements to account for the Filipinos' shifting work preferences. Secretary Balisacan also highlighted the need to encourage business upgrading and skills training program to provide competitive wages and improve workers' productivity. In an interview with Bilyonaryo News Channel, Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma said the improvements in employment rates are a testament to the effective programs and policies administered by the government to strengthen the sector.
This actually encourages us to continue enhancing and effectively implementing programs of the department to contribute to the overall aspiration of having quality, sustainable, and remunerative jobs for our workers.
Sujin, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
And today we're taking a closer look at the Philippine job market as the latest labor force survey reveals a drop in both underemployment and unemployment, a hopeful sign for workers and employers alike. Now, what do these numbers really mean, and how do they align with the country's long-term economic goals? We'll also discuss the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs Report 2025, which highlights global labor market trends and what countries like the Philippines can do to prepare for the future. To help us make sense of these developments, we're joined by Carlo Oñate, the Legislative Officer of the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, and the TUCP party list. As the country's largest labor center, they're at the forefront of advocating for workers' rights and fair employment policies. Carlo. Welcome to Basis Points.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, Carla, interesting junction we're at right now. We just got the figures. Although there were improvements in unemployment and underemployment, the improvements were modest, right? Unemployment, that rate dropped to 3.2% in November 2024 from 3.6% in the same month last year. Underemployment also improved to 10.8% from 12.6%, so still double digits. Now, these decreases, are they due to seasonal factors, or is there something more sustainable here?
Certainly, because this is the November 2024 labor force survey. So most of these improvements, no matter how modest they are actually driven by holiday seasonal jobs. So once the new year, 2025, Filipino workers will have now to find a job because the seasonal jobs are already gone by January, February at most.
That's right. There's a 2-month lag because these are November figures we're looking at. What's the real picture on the ground after the holiday rush is over? I mean, everyone hires for the holiday season, especially in the retail sector. Once that's done and dusted, what does the real picture look like?
Once that is over, employment will go back to the 95% mark. But let me just point out the anomaly in computing for the employment rate. PSA asks one who works for at least 1 hour during the reference week that they conducted the survey whether they do at least 1 hour of work, and they are already employed. So the real picture we feel is poor jobs quality still.
So
double-digit
for an
underemployment.
hour, whether they're paid or unpaid. But at the same time, Carlo, this is an international baseline.
Yes, it is an international standards, but it cannot capture the Philippine reality wherein contractualization remains the norm, which translates and reflects in the double-digit underemployment, which has been there before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and now after the pandemic. Double-digit underemployment means lower job quality, which is something that we have to focus on rather than the quantity of jobs out there.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we improve the quality of jobs?
Yes, the Philippines do not have a scarcity of employment policies. We have labor departments, labor and employment plan. We have the Trabajo para sa Bayan law, which they consider a landmark legislation, creates 3-year, 6-year, and 10-year plan. But the plan is not there yet. It has been signed way back, at least a year old now, and still we do not have the plan. So we, the TUCP, pitches actually the TUCP jobs agenda to be central to these employment plans, and they have to be implemented in full. The jobs agenda, we say, let's focus on infrastructure because that is infrastructure jobs and has multiplier effects. At the same time, we say let's focus on rebranding the Philippines as an investment destination through labor rights compliance.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a great thing to rebrand the Philippines as a premier investment destination. Now, as we look into 2025, what is the wish list for workers for the year?
The wish list for workers remain wage hike, at least 150 pesos, and contractualization. And now, since this is also an election year, they want these issues to be front and center in these 2025 elections. Therefore, they need a voice in Congress, they need a voice in decision-making levels of the government.
Now, let's look at the numbers. The request is for 150 peso daily wage increase across the board. Now, with inflation averaging 3.2% as of for the whole of 2024, how can businesses and labor groups work together to ensure that the wage adjustments meet the workers' needs and the needs of the employers as well?
Employers groups, labor groups, and the government has been sitting down for the last 35 years in the regional wage boards, which increase minimum wages per region. But now, all regional minimum wages, except the National Capital Region, remains below the poverty line. So we feel that it is only right and just now that after 35 years, we finally increased workers' wages by at least 150 pesos.
Okay, on another front, speaking of increases, there's the SSS contribution rate increase. Now, that rate increase is set to go up from 14% in 2024 to 15% this March. It's sparking significant debate. What is your stand on this issue?
Well, we understand that additional deductions are needed to sustain the fund life as mandated by the law of the SSS Act. We note with grave concern the reality that there are tens of billions, regardless if it's 89 or 46 billion that remains unremitted, uncollected from delinquent employers. And now, it is as if workers are made to bear the brunt of paying additional premiums, when in fact those who have more in life, especially certain unscrupulous employers, are not even remitting or paying their due.
Okay, well, that also came from a difficult time for employers during the pandemic, but they're seeing what can be done about that. On another front, let's talk about the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report for 2025. Now, according to the World Economic Forum, 170 million new jobs will be added globally by 2030. On the flip side, 92 million jobs will be displaced. How do you think this is going to affect? What are the implications for the Philippine labor market?
Yes, this will not only change but transform the Philippine labor market. I note that more than 30% of those employed are actually in simple, routine, elementary occupations. These are actually the low skill level jobs, and these are such as household cleaning, maintenance, some clerical tasks, and these are at greater risk of automation come the future of work. And we really need to upskill and reskill our workers, invest in our human resources so that they are never left behind amid the challenge and change.
Right. The demand is for roles in big data specialists, fintech engineers, AI experts. Basically, the report highlights how the global labor market is changing in favor of tech-based advancements and green transitions, and economic and demographic shifts are affecting that. So what do we need to do on a national level, from social safety nets to education? What do we need to do to beef up the workforce, the Filipino workforce of the future?
The TUCP has been pushing for the longest time a just transition program. Business, government, and labor should sit down and let's negotiate how do we upskill and reskill our workers for the new jobs that there will be. Those are, as you have mentioned, digital jobs and green jobs. We note also that there has been, in the World Economic Forum report, it is actually farm workers that top the jobs that we need. And so we need to invest also in our agricultural sector. 60% of those employed are actually in the services sector, leaving behind agriculture, which is only at 20%. So we have to invest in agriculture so that our young workers will also go into agriculture, not because it is necessarily needed by the economy, but because this is high-paying and high-productive industry in the future.
And lastly, what's your vision for the labor force in 2025, the Filipino labor force?
The Filipino labor force, in one word, it could be that it remains evolving. It is a work in progress. Until and unless we finally get those living wages, security of tenure, and full labor rights, Filipino workers will remain brave, will remain fearless in achieving what is only right and just for them.
And we've got our work cut out for us. So thank you for your time, Carlo Oñate.
Thank you very much.
Now, in other news, Greenland is not for sale. This is the assertion of the country's finance minister, Eric Jensen, after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump refused to rule out the use of military force to take the island. Jensen insists that they are the ones who will decide on their future. Trump earlier stressed that the U.S. needs Greenland for its economic security. Now, on another front, U.S. President Joe Biden visits a Santa Monica fire station on Wednesday, where he received a briefing on the 3 wildfires devastating Southern California. Biden pledged federal support to help the region recover, including rebuilding homes, businesses, and infrastructure.
We're prepared to do anything and everything as long as it takes to contain these fires and help reconstruct, make sure we get back to normal. It's going to be a hell of a long way. It's going to take time.
The Palisades fire, the largest of the 3, has burned over 5,000 acres in the Pacific Palisades area of Los Angeles. Residents and business owners alike were left reeling from the damage, with many facing the challenge of starting over. The wildfires have also disrupted the local economy, impacting small businesses, supply chains, and the crucial tourism industry in Southern California. Now, despite the devastation, the federal aid promised by President Biden offers a path to recovery for communities and businesses alike. And as history shows, California's resilience and determination can turn challenges into opportunities to rebuild a stronger and more sustainable future. And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. We'll be back tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel, always on top.